We throw stuff out every day without even really thinking about it, don't we? We throw it out because to us, it's just rubbish. It's not useful to us anymore, or it's not worth anything to us. And so we decide, I can live without that. And we throw it in the trash. Sometimes the things that we chuck out are gross. Like my son's pooey nappies, they are so gross. Other times, the things we throw out are things that we just don't need anymore. Like all the papers that we get from school that accumulate in the bottom of our school bags. Other times, we throw out something without even really thinking about it, and then later we realise that it's actually kind of important. The first journalist to ever interview Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling was given a first edition copy of the book as a thank you. And do you know what he did with it? He threw it in the bin. He was sure that the book was going to be a flop, and so he threw it away. Do you have any idea how valuable that book is now? Can you imagine throwing away something that's worth an absolute fortune? When the Apostle Paul wrote his first letter to the Corinthians, there were people in the church that thought the whole idea of being raised from the dead was a flop. They were actually thinking about ditching the whole idea of the resurrection from their understanding of what it meant to be Christians. So what? What's the big deal? Well, in 1 Corinthians 15, we see that Jesus' resurrection is so important. It's so central to the gospel that if we were to chuck it out, well, that'd be crazy. Paul actually says to the Corinthians that if Christ has not been raised, your faith's futile. You're still in your sin. He goes on to say that Jesus did rise from the dead, and his resurrection has all these epic implications for us. It means that we know that the gospel is true. It means we also know that death really isn't the end. And we also know that how we live now matters because Jesus rose. How could you chuck that out? How could you throw it away? It changes everything. It transforms Christians into people that want to live for Jesus now because there's life later. It gives us something so much better to live for than just eating and drinking and waiting to die. Imagine a whole generation of young people rising up to heed the call that God's placed on their lives to live in light of the resurrection, trusting and following Jesus, listening to him and obeying him, giving themselves fully to his work, taking the love that he's lavished upon us to a world that desperately needs it, and knowing that how we live now can have an eternal impact. How could you throw away the resurrection? It changes everything.